health and well-being, it's such a huge industry and we're always getting sucked into buying supplements and whatever. That's where it gets really expensive. But if you just go back to the basics and use the everyday pantry staple ingredients, they're really cheap and cost effective, and you can use them in so many different ways.
What's up, ladies? Welcome to the Health Class She Deserves, the show where we ditch outdated women's health myths and talk real bodies, real cycles, and real stories. I am your host, Autumn Paone, and today we are joined by Rosa Power, one half of the powerhouse sister duo behind Two Raw Sisters, New Zealand's leading food and wellness brand. Rosa and her sister Margot are 5-time best-selling cookbook authors, podcast hosts, and the creators of the popular Two Raw Sisters app, which is known for its intelligently lazy approach to cooking that makes healthy eating simple, fun, and accessible. Through their philosophy of ritual over restriction, Margot and Rosa are helping people around the world build a better relationship with food and wellness. They've also recently partnered with 100% pure New Zealand honey to help launch its Manuka honey in the United States, showcasing how this natural superfood fits seamlessly into everyday cooking, wellness, and self-care routines. Rosa, welcome to class.
Thanks so much for having me, Autumn. Good to be on.
Yeah, we are really excited to have you here today. So let's start just kind of at the beginning. How did Two Raw Sisters come to fruition?
Well, Margot and I, Margot is we are sisters. A lot of people ask us, are you actually sisters? Or is that just the name of your business? And yes, we are sisters. I'm 29, nearly 30, and Margot's 27. And how we started a business together, we both went through our own individual health journey. So Margot has chronic fatigue and endometriosis, and I was an elite athlete representing New Zealand for about 8 years in middle distance running. And I developed an eating disorder and a training obsession. And I got diagnosed with a condition called RED-S, which stands for Relative Energy Deficiency in Sport. And Margot and I, through our health journeys, we both hit rock bottom, and we know what it feels like to hit rock bottom and to deplete our bodies. And we also know what it feels like to feel our absolute best. And I suppose we both went on that journey in order to discover what it feels like to feel our best and what that takes. And it all came down to pretty much what we were fueling our bodies with, and mainly fueling our bodies with enough food and the right food as well. So that's where we discovered the power of food, and we wanted to educate other people on how to do that and how great it feels to feel your absolute best, because so many of us these days, we're so used to feeling at an average level, and we just put up with it, and we just think, well, that's just life. That's what I've got to deal with. But it can be really simple changes that people can implement into their day-to-day lives that don't require a lot of money or a lot of time, that can totally transform how they feel. And that's what we do at Two Raw Sisters. We help educate people, and as I said, giving people simple, realistic habits that they can implement to transform how they feel is really rewarding for us. And we absolutely love what we do.
That's amazing. And I can't wait to dive in more to some of that today. I think it's really interesting to say, like, people, we just get so used to feeling like, ugh, or just like mediocre. And sometimes I think you don't even remember what it feels like. You don't even know how much you're missing out on, either because you grew up eating a certain way, or it's just been so long where if you like woke up in the morning with energy, like it just seems like something impossible.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to say, like, I'm not perfect at all. And Margot and I both have our days where we're like, oh my God, I just feel like absolute shit. And weeks where we're just so unorganized in the food department. And then those weeks actually make us realize, wow, just putting that 10 minutes aside on a Sunday and prepping my breakfast for the week totally can transform my morning into being chaotic, into being something that is doable and realistic for us.
And I also have endometriosis like Margot, and there's only, like, food is such a powerful way to help manage endo, but there's only so much food can do at the same time, where it's just like some days you're just not gonna feel the way that you want to, and learning to kind of just meet yourself where you're at is really great.
Exactly. And I think that's a really good point, is some days we do feel like shit. And some days our endo pain is a lot more than what it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And it's just accepting that that is what today is, and how can I meet myself where I am at and fuel myself in the best way and look after myself in the best way I possibly can.
Absolutely. So I said two phrases in the introduction that really define your work. The first one was intelligently lazy. And then the next one, ritual over restriction. So I'd love for you to unpack both of those, whichever you'd like to start with.
Well, yeah, being intelligently lazy is a massive phrase or key phrase that Margot and I use a lot of. We're doing currently a big tour around New Zealand and Australia that is kind of headlined Be Intelligently Lazy. And it's amazing how it grabs people's attention because they're like, oh, wow, I can be lazy, but I can also be intelligent. How does that work? So by being intelligently lazy, Margot and I are educating people on how they can fuel their bodies well, but they don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. So they can still be lazy, yet feel their best. So that means on a Sunday, as I said at the start, prepping your breakfast once and eating it multiple times during the week. Or it might be making a work lunch salad on a Sunday and eating it for the next 2 to 3 days. And you don't have to think about it again. And I feel like until you actually do it, you realize how great it actually is. And as I said, some weeks I have those weeks where I just feel like, oh, I just don't have the time to prep anything, and I pay myself for it later on in the week because every day I'm having to think about what's for breakfast or what's for my work lunch today, and spend time not only thinking but also making something up. And sometimes it's not actually the perfect choice. We really encourage people to be intelligently lazy. And while you're making something, it takes just as long to make 1 times the recipe as it does 2 or 3 times the recipe. And also thinking about freezer-friendly meals. You can make 1 lasagna, but instead of just making 1, you could also make 2 and freeze 1 and have 1 for dinner that night. Also, another big thing we talk about under that Be Intelligently Lazy umbrella is swapping ingredients. So looking at a recipe as a guideline rather than thinking you have to follow it step by step. So if you don't have quinoa, for example, that the recipe calls for, don't think, oh, God, I can't make that, or I need to go and spend 10 minutes in the car to get to the supermarket and then another 10 minutes back. 20 minutes, 30 minutes by the time I get it before I can even make this recipe. Think, well, actually, what do I already have in my pantry? How can I be intelligently lazy and use what I've got at home rather than spending that time in the car and in the supermarket? So you could use brown rice or pasta or millet, whatever grain you have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I love what you said about like, you don't think people even realize the difference that it makes to just take that time to prep one day of the week, whatever works. Like, because the convenience aspect of eating, at least for me, if I am hungry and I haven't prepped or I don't have enough food in the house, it's just like snack central. And I'll snack while I'm trying to figure out what I want to eat for an actual meal. And then by the time I figure that out, I'm like not
Yeah,
hungry anymore. And it just isn't. And but then I'm hungry in like an hour because I didn't eat anything substantial. I just ate some snacks. And so
exactly.
that convenience component is really important. And the decision fatigue, like you were saying, of just make it once and you don't have to decide for the rest
Yeah.
of the week. It really makes a difference mentally for sure.
It sure does. If you do get sick of having the same thing every single day, you could make something for half the week. And then we always say there's always Wednesday, like you can do a midweek meal prep and then
Mhm.
make something for the rest of the week, which is what I tend to do sometimes because I get sick of having the same thing every single morning. So that works for me.
Yes.
So it might work for some of your listeners too.
Yeah, definitely. And then the next phrase was ritual over restriction. Can you talk a little bit more about what that means?
Sure. So Margot and I, we always say we want to educate people on habits that are maintainable and also enjoyable. And I feel like there's so many fad diets, and especially this time of year, it's routines. How can we create as many goals as we possibly can for ourselves, and we end up putting all this pressure to achieve those goals, and if we have a day where we don't do that particular goal, then we've just failed, and that's that, and we've had a shit start to the year. So Margot and I, we always say start small. It's actually amazing how small changes can make such a huge impact on how you feel mentally and physically. And that's where we talk about rituals over restriction and looking at it as a lifestyle rather than something that you have to do every single day. And I feel like people start something like prepping their breakfast once a week or making their work lunch, and they actually continue it because it makes them feel so much better. Whereas a lot of these fad diets and restrictive routines that we're told to do by the, well-being, health and well-being world out there, they're actually not enjoyable, and we feel like we're restricting ourselves, which then makes us want to do the opposite, essentially.
Mm-hmm. For sure, which is something like I learned when I went to college because I always felt kind of like like there were always we did family dinners, and so there was kind of rules around like when we could snack and what we had to eat and stuff. And then I went to college and I was like, I can eat whatever I want whenever I want. Then it got to a point where I was like, no, I don't feel good eating like this. And then I went the opposite way where I was like, I need to like restrict everything. And then I would it was like a binge and restrict cycle. And that's not healthy. And as you said in the
No.
beginning, you also struggled with an eating disorder. So can we talk a little bit about that and why restriction is so harmful, especially for women?
Yeah, restriction, it's such a awful thing. And I feel like so many women out there, whether they know it or not, we restrict ourselves to some degree, whether it's food or there's the restriction side of it, or there's that, the overtraining where we're restricting ourselves in the movement area on I can only do this exercise and I've got to be out there for this amount of time in order to get that snack that I want at the end of the day. So there's, obviously many forms of restriction. And as you said, I went through an eating disorder and a training obsession. So I've completely understand what that restriction feels like and how it can then have that ripple effect on your body, your health, your well-being. And for me personally, I hit rock bottom and I neglected my body so much that I had a body fat percentage of 8%. And for the normal menstruating women, it has to be between 18 and 20%. So I'd lost my period. And at the time, I didn't actually realize the consequences, not only short term, but long term, that I was going to have to face. I was only concerned about what was happening right now, and that was I'm restricting myself, but it's for a good reason because I've got this body that I want. And it's almost like the sense of achievement. I feel that it's a controllable that we all can have on ourselves, how much food we consume, how much exercise we do. And a lot of that can be influenced from social media, what friends are doing. And it's so unhealthy how we get ourselves in this cycle, and it's just constantly spinning and we just go round and round. And sometimes we are oblivious to, as I said, the effects that it's actually having on ourselves. So that's where, through my own experience, I realized what it can actually do to us mentally and physically. And that's where I want to educate people on that whole ritual over restriction and teach people that eating well can be enjoyable, and we don't have to feel fatigued all the time, and we don't have to feel like we can't eat this because of this, and we don't need to compare ourselves to other people because everyone's going through their own journey and through their own seasons of life, and we have to come back to what works best for us and what we feel we need at that particular time of our season. So I suppose that's where Margot and I, having us as kind of the face of our brand and showing people the realistic lives that we live, and we're sisters, but we eat differently and we have different requirements. And, if we want to eat that snack, we feel like we need that snack, then why not? Why not eat the snack? We always say eat the goddamn snack because you always feel better for it. If you don't eat it, then that's all you think about all afternoon. It's just playing in your mind. I should have had that snack, or no, I've made the right decision that I didn't have the snack because I didn't go for a run this afternoon. As I said, it's just this vicious cycle. And I feel like we have good days, we have bad days, but it's learning how to manage that inner voice telling us to restrict ourselves for some certain reason, and to try and let go of that and to know that you're better than that. Margot and I tend to have a name for that voice, that inner voice inside of us, and Margot calls it Sally, for example, and she's like, Sally, get out. I don't need you right now, Sally. So yeah,
I love that.
it's a restriction is a horrible thing, and I think it's something we all need to normalize too, and to voice to one another. Especially, I mean, it's present in males as well, but females in particular, like we don't talk about it enough, I don't think. And as I said, that comparing is so toxic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you're saying, it shows up in such sneaky ways. And
Mm,
so we don't even realize all the time. Like, I didn't know that I was restricting myself so severely, like, when I was doing it, but I was. And in hindsight, it's
mm,
kind of like, wow, like, this thought process that was going on just wasn't healthy at all. But it's like I have it all under control. Like,
yeah.
I'm good. And like you said, with you were like, you lost your period. And I think that's another thing that we normalize, which is insane to me.
Mm,
Like, I remember being in college and I knew some women on the track team and some other, but it was a D1 college and they were professional athletes. And some of them would just kind of nonchalantly, like, I remember speaking with one particular where she's kind of like, yeah, like, I lost my period. And I was
mm,
like, "You don't get your period anymore because of how much you're exercising and how
mm.
little you're eating? Like, um that's not normal." But she was making it sound like her doctors were kinda like, "Oh, yeah, it happens to athletes sometimes." It's like, "No, no, no, but it shouldn't be." Like, we can't be
Yeah,
normalizing that.
and that's the thing, it's when I was going through my career of being an athlete, performances came over health and long-term health, and as you said, from your friend who did track and field, it's when you lose your period, it's almost like, yay, like I'm at a good race weight. I'm doing well, I'm training well, I'm eating well. This is the result we need in order for me to get to the next level. And it's crazy how, for me personally as well, it didn't ring any alarm bells for a lot of
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
And I didn't know any better either. So I just kept going and I just thought I was heading in the right direction and that's what needed to happen. And
exactly.
I look back now and I'm like, how did I restrict myself so much? And how did I put up with underfueling my body and training that much off such little fuel? But when you get yourself in that mindset and when you've got a goal ahead of you, it's amazing the limits your body can actually go to before it hits rock bottom. And for a lot of people, unfortunately, they need to get to that rock bottom stage in order to realize, like, holy moly, like, I can't keep doing this. Like, my body is physically breaking down right in front of me. And that's where my hope is talking about it more might catch people before that happens, and to make people aware of, oh my gosh, that actually is me. Like, I am restricting myself and I need to get help, or I need to talk about it to someone.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love how you bring up also the kind of it feeling like a reward. Like, I think the way that we
Mm,
socialize young girls and young women is that it's something to achieve. It's a goal, the bikini body and skin. And then, when you're an athlete at a certain level, especially, it adds just this extra component of you might even have coaches and trainers like cheering you on for
mm,
very restrictive and unhealthy disordered eating patterns or exercise patterns. And so you're getting all this dopamine from it. And it's even now, like, all the work I've done to kind of like, deconstruct body image issues and disordered eating patterns. Even now, if waking up and I look at myself in the mirror in the morning and I feel like I look extra skinny or I can like kind of see my abs or whatever, it's like a dopamine rush.
but yeah,
It's the way it's really difficult to undo that conditioning.
and I think that's, as we've been talking about, that comparison is the evil of all evils, because
Mhm.
normally we're comparing ourselves against somebody else, or as you said, it's that summertime, everyone wants that perfect bikini body that they can look hot in. And we're putting all this pressure on ourselves to look this certain way because we want to be that girl that looks like that.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah, we see examples of it everywhere, and
Mm,
it's what we wanna be. It used to just be, like, magazines, which was also damaging, but at least it wasn't
yeah.
in your hand all the time, like
I know, and now, yeah, social media is just and it's going like, starting younger and younger, I feel, like, when
Yes.
I was at high
Mhm.
school, like, I only just got Instagram in my last year of high school, whereas now,
Mm.
like, girls as
Yeah.
young as, like, 12, 13 have got their hands on
Mhm.
phones which have toxic images of them that of other girls that they're
Mhm.
comparing themselves with constantly, and it's
Yeah.
awful.
And we have AI now, like, I didn't grow up
Yeah,
with all AI generated content, but now there's fake women on your on your screen
I know,
where you're
it's
like
absolutely mind-blowing
yeah,
to
yeah, it
add that
is
into the
scary
mix
for
as well.
sure. Yeah. So let's talk about how Two Raw Sisters then is kind of combating this. How do you guys help? Because you're very education based as well as like the recipes and stuff. So how do you help your community sort of unlearn this comparison, um, like proclivity for comparison and the perfectionism around food?
So, yeah, Margot and I, we people can find us on Instagram, Facebook, our website. Mostly we share a lot of this type of stuff around our routines and our work life, but also our personal life, which I feel like a lot of this comes into on our social media. And I feel like, as I touched on a bit earlier, we are the face of our brands and we are the ones that we want to see ourselves as role models that people look up to. And we are the ones educating those viewers on living a realistic life and listening to your body and how we feel our best and how you can also feel your best as well. And swapping ingredients in and out, being intelligently lazy, eating what's in season, going back to the basics. And that's where we show on our social media our day-to-day living and what we do, which then hopefully makes it relatable and realistic for those other people out there. So it might be like this morning I had to rush out the door to drop my daughter off at kindy, and I had like 10 minutes to eat my breakfast, and if I didn't have my granola that I prepped in my fridge that I could pull out and put my yogurt and my fruit on top, I probably wouldn't have eaten anything, or I might have just grabbed a piece of toast with some butter and Marmite. This so I showed my community that this is what happened in my morning this morning. It wasn't perfect, but it made it a lot better having that prepped, and I could just grab it and eat it and get out the door, and I felt great for that. So it's just showing
I love that.
realistic life, I suppose. And that's a big thing a lot of people tell us, and the feedback we get is, I love how normal you are. And a lot of social media and stories out there is just so perfect and unrealistic for a lot of people. And sometimes I look at things and I'm like, how do people do that? Like my morning, it looks
Mhm.
the complete opposite to that. Like I'm running around, like my daughter peed all over the carpet this morning and I'm running around
Oh
after her
no.
trying to put a nappy on her. Like just little
Yeah.
things like that, and sharing that, because there's probably someone else out there who's dealing with exactly the same thing, and knowing that, oh, I'm not on my own, or, and sharing also those weeks where you do feel so unorganized and you feel like life is just so chaotic and you can't keep on top of it. Sharing that, but then also flipping it around and being like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with this week, but what can I do for myself to help me out and to kind of change my mindset around what my week is what I'm dealing with this week. So yeah, it's
Mhm.
just being
Yeah.
relatable.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's amazing because you're right. We see so many highlight reels on the
Mm,
internet that it's like, where are the normal people living normal lives? And I mean, yeah, it's great. You get a good photo, you're on vacation or something, you look really, really great. You want to post it on Instagram, of
mm,
course. But if that's your entire Instagram and it looks like you're just doing that all day, every day, it's like, this isn't real and relatable for people. And yeah, like you said, like, people reaching out and being like, I love how normal you guys are." It
mm,
really can just humanize you and show people that there's everybody out there is having normal human experiences, and what you see on
yeah,
the internet probably isn't the entire picture of their like normal human experience. So I really love that
Totally.
that you guys do that. I think that that's an amazing way to run a business, that
Yeah.
authenticity. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's great. Like
Absolutely.
I don't have time to do myself up all the time and to try and act perfect. And as I said, that's what people appreciate.
Definitely.
You get what you get.
So, yes, exactly. So, I'd love to talk about some of the other aspects of Two Raw Sisters. So, you've touched a little bit on food swaps and that kind of thing. Can you tell us what some of your favorite food swaps are? I know, because for me, I love what you said in the beginning about like looking at a recipe as just sort of a general guideline,
Mm.
because that's what I do all the time. I'm so bad at just like following
Good on you.
instructions. I'm
That's
like, no,
great.
no, no. Exactly. I'm like,
I
this will
applaud
probably work.
people. Yeah. I
Yeah.
applaud people for like changing our recipes up and they're like, what? What do you mean? Like, but I'm altering your recipe. I'm like, no, that's what I want you to do. Like, that's what they're designed
Yeah.
to do, is to change
Yeah.
depending on what you have.
Experiment.
And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
feel
So
like
what are some
that's,
of your favorites?
yeah. So our main kind of swaps would be first off a grain. As I said, if a recipe calls for quinoa, you can swap it out for any other grain you've got in your pantry. From talking to a lot of people that come to our workshops or message us, they're the type of people who will look at a recipe and go out and buy specifically what the recipe says, and then they end up having like 6 different grains, all kind of half used, and some of them have been in there for 2 years and they haven't used them again because they haven't come to a recipe that's called for them. So we always encourage people, rather than going out and buying, try and use up what you've got in your pantry first. So yeah, grains are our first kind of key swap. Another swap that we always refer to are like nuts and seeds. So if a recipe calls for almonds, like sprinkle some almonds into a salad or on top of some sort of bowl that you're making. If you don't have almonds, but you've got pumpkin seeds, walnuts, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, use any of those instead. And then veggies are obviously another one. So using what's in season, I feel like a lot of people will go and buy that $8 eggplant when they're actually not in season, but the recipe calls for it. So rather than going and buying that $8 eggplant or whatever other expensive veggie that a recipe calls for, try and use what's in season. So we always say, when you go into the produce store or the supermarket, look what's cheap. And whatever's cheap is generally what's in season. And what's in season is going to taste a lot nicer as well and be probably more local. So that's a really good tip if you're going into your produce store or your supermarket and you're not sure what's in season. Even going on ChatGPT and saying like, what's in season this time of year, and just having a mental snapshot of what you can get hold of that's going to be more accessible and more cheaper as well. So yeah, using what's in season's huge. And then also dressings are another thing. If you love a dressing and a particular recipe that you've made, like swap it out for the dressing in this particular recipe that you want to make for your dinner or for your work lunch. As I said, just use it as a guideline and have fun with it. And I feel like a lot of people end up enjoying cooking a lot more, and it's a lot less stressful because they can just use what they want and what they love, and they don't have to measure everything to the exact amount. They can just kind of chuck it in, especially with your savory recipes. I get it for baking. If you want to measure, go ahead, because things normally have to bake or rise. But with like things like salads or bowls, like curries, just soups, chuck anything in. I'm sure it will work. As I said, our recipes are designed to be swapped and changed. And on our app, on all of our recipes, we've got simple swaps and additions to give people a bit of a head start on, cool, I can actually swap this for this or that for that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I think
such a game changer.
Sure, yeah. And one of my favorite things is I know peanut butter can be really like inflammatory for some people and there's a lot of allergies out there, but I love peanut butter. Like I would just sit and eat spoonfuls of peanut butter.
You're my girl. Same.
Yes. And it's so much cheaper than all the other nut butters because like you can't get, at least where I'm at, you can't get almond butter for like less than $10 for like an 8-ounce container. Like I'm like, that's insane. Whereas I can just go to Costco, and get 2 things of peanut butter for $10. I'm like,
yeah, it's so
definitely
good.
doing that.
That's actually a really good point with, I'm not sure, have you guys got, there's like a nut free, we can't take nuts in our like school lunches, or like my daughter's at daycare and we can't take anything with nuts in it. If a recipe, for example, calls for peanut butter, but you want to put it in your kid's lunchbox, swap out peanut butter for tahini, because tahini's made of sesame seeds, so it's nut free. So it's a great thing to keep in the back of your mind as well. And always another tip for mums out there, if you've got mums as your listeners, like those little bits of fruit that are left over in the lunchbox, like you can grate up an apple and put it through some overnight oats, or make a porridge out of it, or mash up the banana and put it in the porridge or the overnight oats or the baked oats as well.
I love that. That's great. And also, the other thing that I love just experimenting with is smoothies. I think because I don't have kids, my boyfriend has kids, and we have them part-time, like shared custody. And the only way that I can get the younger two to eat a vegetable is if I put it in a smoothie and they don't see me put it in. But a smoothie, it's like a treat. It's like, ooh, like they think it's dessert. I'm like, there's protein in here. There's so much fiber.
Yeah, it's so great. You can just add. That's exactly like my daughter. If have you put zucchini, freeze zucchini, and add it in with your frozen bananas. You might do like frozen bananas, frozen zucchini, hemp seeds, yogurt, whatever you want, rolled oats. And the zucchini makes the smoothie really light and fluffy. And again, like they don't know it's in there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a great idea. I've never done that.
So
I'll have to try that.
Or cauliflower's really good too. Makes it really creamy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always have to put like a crazy amount of strawberries and raspberries in there though, so it stays pink.
Yeah.
Because God forbid it's like, not pink.
Pink. Yeah.
Yes.
I can so relate to that. That's great.
It's so true. Yeah. So you touched a little bit on swapping and buying things in season to help save money. But money, I think, is one of the biggest barriers for people when it comes to healthy eating, especially for Gen Z and younger millennials. It's like we can barely afford rent, let alone berries in the wintertime or almond butter, like we were saying, like that kind of stuff. So do you have any other money saving tips for people when it comes to grocery shopping and trying to eat as healthy as possible?
I think, and a lot of people discover this when they go to make our recipes, is actually when you look really closely, they're very cost effective, everyday staple ingredients. And I feel like health and well-being, it's such a huge industry, and we're always getting sucked into buying supplements and this powder and this protein powder and whatever, all these different seed blends. That's where it gets really expensive. But if you just go back to the basics and use the everyday pantry staple ingredients like your rolled oats, your nuts and seeds, your flours, your grains, like they're really cheap and cost effective, and you can use them in so many different ways. And as I said, that's what a lot of people find when they make our recipes. You can use your rolled oats and your overnight oats. You can use them to make cookies. You can use them to make muffins or chuck them in your smoothie. And same with grains. Like the amount of things you can create using your stock standard brown rice, but you can add in simple flavors, again, super cost effective ingredients like your spices, your garlic, your ginger, your turmeric, lemons, limes when they're in season. Even canned legumes are awesome, a great plant-based protein, awesome to bulk up a meal with. So it's actually, when you strip it right back, it's super cost effective, and it's just educating people on those ingredients, but also what to do with those ingredients. Some people might look at a bag of brown rice and be like, oh my gosh, what can I do with a bag of brown rice that big? Or look at a can of legumes and be like, oh, boring. But it's as simple as, chucking your butter beans on a baking tray and adding some spices to them and cooking them and making them really nice and crunchy and tossing them through a salad. Or we always say like a dressing totally transforms any meal. And rather than going and buying, that expensive pre-made dressing on the supermarket shelf, you can look in your pantry and pull something together using some extra virgin olive oil, some garlic, some lemon juice or some vinegar, You might have a bunch of herbs that you can chuck in there as well, and some yogurt and tahini, and you've got yourself a really yummy dressing. We touched on seasonal ingredients too, veggies, fruits. That totally can change how expensive your grocery bill is, I believe, just by using what's cheap and what's in season. And again, you can make them into something that's super delicious, whether it's a soup or grating them up and making fritters out of them or roasting them in the oven with some spices and legumes, or cutting them up and having them raw throughout a salad. It's just it's just education, I feel, and a lot of people are undereducated in it, or just get sucked into that multi-billion, trillion-dollar health and well-being industry. I feel like
Yes.
this is so expensive, and I actually can't maintain this and buy the supplement every single month because I can't afford it. So I'm just going to go back to my usual diet of highly processed foods and feel
Yeah.
my average self and feel like I
Yeah.
can't do anything more than that, which is really sad.
Exactly. Yeah, it is very sad. And I think that's a great point that people we think that being healthy is really difficult and expensive because that
Mhm.
is what capitalism wants you to think. Because
Yeah.
then you feel, especially for women, like we're talking about before, like the wellness industry disproportionately attacks women
Oh,
and
yeah.
manipulates them to buy things. And so they make all these women feel small and insignificant and insufficient, like they're missing
Mm,
something. And then it's like it's gonna be really difficult and expensive to achieve, the perfect body or the perfect whatever, but it's totally worth it because look at all
yeah.
these Instagram influencers. It's all connected and it is very sad, like you say, but it's amazing
Yeah.
that you guys are really putting it out there, like, it's not difficult and it doesn't have to be expensive.
And it's really interesting, like, we get a lot of questions around supplements, and totally supplements have a place, and
Mhm,
for some people it does, some people it doesn't. I always recommend, like, going and getting a blood test so you actually know what you need rather than being told by marketing that you need, as you said, like, you
right.
need this to feel this way or to look this way. And when people say, "Oh, I'm taking this supplement," I'm like, well, why are you actually taking it? And they've actually got no answer because they don't know why they're taking it. Like, protein powder's a perfect example for that. A lot of people don't actually know why they're taking protein powder. And I feel like a lot of people are taking it because they're actually undereducated in what sources of protein are out there that you can just get through your everyday diet and through food. Like, start with your food first. I said canned
Mhm,
legumes, like, they're $1 to $2 a can, and they're one of the highest plant-based sources of protein. Like, add that into your meal. Or grains, like
mhm,
grains, nuts, and seeds, they're all excellent sources of protein as well. And if you eat meat, red meat, chicken, fish, and you might not need to be spending that, $100 on that thing of protein powder every month or so.
mhm, exactly, and I love what you say, like, legumes and beans, I feel like are so people are sleeping on them. I don't know why
Yeah,
more people don't, and I feel
they're
like people don't
so
realize how
good.
much protein they have. Yeah, but
Yeah,
they're like this they are staples of blue zone diets, of,
yeah,
the longest living communities on the planet. Beans and legumes are such a staple in those diets, and they're so important, and so, they're great. They have so much fiber, so much protein, and just in general longevity. Eat more beans if you want to live
yeah. Like,
longer and happier.
exactly, like, every week at the moment, my daughter Henrietta and I, we make a thing of hummus, and it's literally a can of legumes and or
Mhm.
chickpeas and some tahini and lemon and oil and salt, and we dollop that
Yeah.
on our meals or put it on rice crackers or dip carrot sticks in it. It's just, like, such
Mhm.
an awesome, easy addition to everything.
Yeah, homemade hummus is one of, like, the
So good.
easiest and best because store-bought hummus, honestly, I really don't like it. There are very few that
No,
I like.
I
Yeah, and
agree.
it's just kinda, and I really like carrots and hummus, like, it's one of my favorite,
Mm,
especially for endo. I find that carrots are very, like, helpful for me in
yes.
managing some of the flares and stuff, and so
Oh,
homemade hummus is,
interesting,
like,
cool.
10 million times better. It's cheaper. You could make, like, a huge batch of it for
Mm.
much less than you would, get a tiny little container. Um,
We've been
and
talking a
I'll
lot.
make
Sorry, you go.
so Oh, yeah, no, I'll make desserts to hummus sometimes too. I'll put cocoa
Yeah,
powder and,
yum.
like, maple syrup in it if I'm, like,
Yum!
craving something sweet, yeah. But
I
go ahead.
love that. Yeah, we've been talking a lot about granola recently in our
Mhm,
community, and that buying your granola is ridiculously expensive. Also, you can educating people that it's one of those things that people feel like it takes way more time than what it actually does, and that it's way more expensive to make than what it actually costs you. We always say, like, use those little bits of nuts and seeds in your pantry and chuck some spices in and use those really cheap, cost effective rolled oats, and you can whip up your own granola that you know exactly what's in it for less than
mhm,
half the price, more than half
mhm.
the price of your granola that you buy from the supermarket, which more than often it's really interesting. Next time you buy your granola, guys, look at your ingredients in that granola. It blows
Mhm.
my mind. Think like looking at what that packaging is saying and then looking at the ingredients list, I'm like, interesting.
Yep, yep. It's true. And I think a lot of the things that we're talking about right now also, like, when it comes to nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, oats, like, all of these things, you can go to your local, like, bulk food
Mm,
store and get them in bulk, and they're not gonna go bad for a crazy amount of time, and so you could save so much money that way as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
I actually, because I don't live near a supermarket, so I will buy like a lot of things in bulk, as you said, rolled oats, nuts and seeds, grains. And what I like to do is I'll keep a jar in my pantry, say of like my almonds and my walnuts, and the rest that I have of my 3 kg bag that I brought, I store them in the freezer and it just keeps them nice and
Mhm.
fresh. So if you're one that likes to buy things in bulk but is worried about keeping your nuts, seeds, grains fresh, just put them in your freezer
That's a great tip.
or fridge.
Yeah. I think my mom does that. Yeah, she'll keep
Mm.
I used to make fun of her. She would keep her like, a huge bag of almonds in the freezer, and I'm like, "You're
Yeah.
so weird. Why do
Why
you
are
do
you
that?"
doing
But
that?
yeah.
No, and actually it's really great. I was the same. My auntie used to do that and I was like, this is
Yeah.
really weird. Why do you do that? And then
Yeah.
I was like, hey, this is actually a really smart idea. I'm gonna do that.
Yes. Well, let's circle back to food swaps for a little bit and talk about, the 100% pure New Zealand honey that you guys are partnered with.
Love that
Because I think
brand.
honey is one of those amazing swaps that you can put in for,
Mm.
like, any sugar that a recipe calls for. You can also use it outside of the kitchen even. So do you wanna talk a little bit about your partnership and how you're using honey?
Yeah, honey is such a staple. And it's our go-to sweetener. We've been
Mhm,
testing our new cookbook. And we've figured from all of the muesli bars we've been creating and trying to find the perfect recipe. Honey, for example, is the best sweetener because it's stickier and
mhm,
it holds things together a lot better than say your maple syrup. So perfect for if you're
mhm.
making like your muesli bar for lunch boxes. It's so great in overnight oats, porridges, baked oats, smoothies, and also in your savory things as well. I use it a lot in some dressings. I don't know if you guys have tried it, but they've got a hot honey, which is so yum. And I
Yes.
put it
Yep.
on halloumi before I grill it on the
Ooh,
stove, and it is next level.
that's a great
If you're
idea.
into eating salmon as well, I make like a marinade with the hot honey, some soya sauce, sesame oil, and then coat the salmon in there and then fry it off in the pan or in the oven. That is great. In any of our recipes, if a recipe, for example, does call for maple syrup and you want to use honey, you can definitely use honey or vice versa. And the other week I was coming down with the flu and I literally just had a spoonful of honey. The nutritional benefits that it provides for our body is next to none and it's just amazing. And I love doing like a teaspoon, big heap teaspoon of honey, some grated ginger, grated turmeric, lemon, and it sets me up. So if you're
Mhm.
feeling a bit
Yeah.
under the weather, try that.
It's so true. I've done that before also, like, the, honey bomb, I think is what I saw it on the internet as, but it's exactly what you just described with the turmeric, ginger, honey, a little
Yeah,
bit of lemon. I think
so good.
garlic also, which, ruins the flavor, but
Yeah.
when it's just like that
Good,
raw
good.
garlic, but it works so well, yeah. And I love garlic. Like, I'm Italian, I love garlic, but yeah, some of these, like, immunity things that I make when I start to feel sick, especially this time of year here
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania is like, sometimes I'm like, that garlic is really, really strong. I can taste it for days.
Yeah,
It's a
luckily
lot,
there's a
but
bit of honey in there to sweeten it up, eh? But it's like
yeah.
honey actually, when I have a teaspoon of honey, it's so soothing on on the throat, I find. Like, it almost
Yeah.
does the same as what a lozenge does, I feel,
Mhm. Yeah, I
which
agree.
is really
Yeah.
nice. But yeah, love honey, and I think if you don't have a jar of honey in your pantry right now, go and get yourself a jar of 100% pure Manuka honey, whether it's the hot honey or just the Manuka honey, or both. Recommend
Mhm.
both.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's just a staple that you can go to create those recipes, whether it's your breakfast recipe, your snack recipe, or your lunch or dinner. And I think having a well-stocked pantry then gives you those staples to then go and create something. And that's where that
Mhm.
swapping is so key, because you just use what you've got.
Yes. Yeah. And also when it comes to honey, for anyone listening, since we were talking about the wellness industry, targeting
Mm.
women and all of that, for your face, put
Mm.
honey on your face for like 20 minutes every day or a couple times a week. It doesn't even have to be every day. The difference that it made in like the hydration, it's also can help with acne because it's antibacterial. And yeah, it like got rid of my dry skin. It just made my skin a little bit like glowier. And I
Yeah,
did it for a couple weeks and I was like, this is amazing.
we got told that as
Yeah.
well, and Margot and I literally went and did it after
It-
we got told,
mhm.
and we were like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool, but so weird at the same time that I've got honey
Yeah.
all over my face." And we're like, "Oh, I'll give it a wee lick
Yes.
on the side."
Yes. Exactly.
But
Yeah, and it's
it's
kinda, like,
amazing.
dripping a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, you
Like,
gotta
the
get your
as you
hair up for sure in a headband.
yes, and as you said, that hydration, it's so good. And I actually had
Mhm.
like some spots on my face, and the
Mhm.
antibacterial properties, like after doing it consistently for like a week or two, they were
Mhm.
gone. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
this is crazy. And it just goes back and shows you how powerful food actually is, real food.
Right. Yeah, so, like, before you go invest in, like, a fancy skincare brand,
Mm.
give honey a try first.
Just go
Assuming
to
you're not allergic, which I don't think is that still even a
I
thing?
think
I don't
no,
know.
I think there are some
Otherwise,
people
there's no
allergic to
harm.
honey, but that's a
Oh, I
shame,
guess that
isn't
would
it?
make
But yeah,
sense because of bees, but yeah, as long as you're not allergic, there's really no harm in trying that out first to see if it helps.
exactly. And that's it.
Yeah.
Just shows. Just go to your pantry and use like avocados. You can make
Mhm.
a mask with avocados. Again, that's
Yeah.
real food.
Mhm. Yes, exactly. Yeah, and an avocado is like $1.30,
Mm.
whereas, your the fancy, like, face creams and stuff are like
A lot more
$100
expensive.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Crazy, yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah. Alright, well, we are coming up on the end here. I have a couple more questions. First, if somebody is listening and feels just a little bit overwhelmed or burnt out by trying to do everything right, what is one mindset shift you'd really want them to walk away with today?
For me, it's realizing that small changes can make a huge impact, and not feeling like you have to do all these things to get to this point. And for me personally, starting with my breakfast is just a non negotiable. If I've got 5 minutes on my Sunday, I can whip something up in 5 minutes, whether it's my overnight oats or I might have had a granola in the freezer that I made a couple of weeks ago. It just totally transforms my morning. But yeah, just realizing that little small changes can make a huge impact. So don't feel overwhelmed by the whole health and well-being promos and advertising out there. It doesn't have to be complicated. Keep it simple.
Mhm. Mhm. That's great advice. And then I have one last question that I like to ask all of my guests here since we're in health class. If
Mhm.
you could rewrite the health class curriculum that every woman deserves, what would your first lesson be?
Learning about the female body, I think, is not taught or educated
Mhm.
about enough, and that's what essentially gave me permission to look after my body more, is actually realizing and valuing what my body does for me. We've talked about for so long I neglected my body, and one of the reasons was not only my athletics career, but also not actually understanding what my body does, and having gone through the whole pregnancy, side of things and carrying a baby, giving birth to a baby, it's just like blowing my mind, blowing my socks off. And I just value my
Yeah.
body so much more for it. And even like menstruating women as well, like when you understand your body, when you go through, if you've got endometriosis or you're going through really bad period cramps, or you might be going through ovulation and feeling awesome, like knowing why that's happening and giving your body some grace when you are going through those not so great times, but then celebrating your body when you are going through those good times. I think,
Mhm.
yeah, the whole female body, knowing what it does and on a day to day, is
Yeah.
just not talked or educated about enough.
Yes. Yeah, it's so true, and it's so sad because the female body is, like, so incredible. It's
Oh, it's
so
amazing.
amazing, and, I mean, in my personal opinion, completely superior to a man's. Like,
Mm.
we
Oh,
just do so much. I mean, evolutionarily, I think you could argue that is an evolutionary idea since we do the
it,
childbearing, that our bodies have to be better or more
I
efficient,
know.
right?
And that's
Yeah.
has a ripple effect on, we talked about restriction a lot today. Like, I feel like you just
Mhm.
almost, it's a bit of an epiphany because you're like, I can't I can't keep doing that because my body's not going to thrive the way it should be thriving or do the things I want to do short and long term if I'm doing
Mhm.
these restrictive habits. Yeah,
Yes.
it's just it just blows my mind, the body and what
Yeah.
it's capable of
Yeah.
doing. It's amazing. It's awesome. So let's all be
Yeah.
kinder to
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yes. It's so true, and
Mm,
even just having that basic, like, scientific, completely unemotional understanding of
mm.
why you're hungrier in your luteal phase than you are in your follicular phase. Like, once I understood all of that, I started to realize,
Oh,
like,
it's
okay, if I need 4 meals today because it's, like, right before my period and I eat 4, like, nutritious meals and
mm,
I'm not just snacking throughout the day, that's okay. I'm allowed to do that. So I think that's an amazing point of really understanding and appreciating and having this gratitude for your body can really help you
mm.
through a lot of those restrictive patterns.
Yeah, I'm going through that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just so hungry at the moment. And like, when
Mhm.
as you said, you're
Mhm.
like, you just can't, nothing's filling you up and you just need to
Yes.
snack and eat those 4 great,
Yeah.
good, nutritious meals a day. And I know exactly why, because I've just come off my menstrual phase and I normally get very ravenous and just my
Mhm.
metabolism just skyrockets. And
Mhm.
knowing that and giving myself permission to, have a couple of pieces of Rocky Road after dinner because that's what my body's craving right now and that's what it needs, and not feeling
Yes.
guilty for it.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And also, we talked about so many, like, amazing sounding, like, recipes and stuff today, so I'm also just hungry from
Yeah.
our conversation.
Go and get the app. There's so many awesome recipes
Yes.
on there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'll definitely link the app for everybody in the show notes. I'll also
Amazing.
link your guys's, Instagram, Facebook, and then do you guys have a release date for the cookbook or not yet?
Yeah, it's not till September the 10th. But
Okay.
yeah, so it's a wee while away, but you guys can obviously
Mhm.
keep that in the back of your mind. But yeah, as I said, highly recommend jumping
Absolutely.
on the app. There's a 7-day free trial, and as I said, like, small little changes can make such a huge impact. And just go and make your breakfast for the week and see how great you feel and how much
Mhm.
stress it takes away from your morning chaos. Because I
Yeah.
definitely see a benefit for it.
Yes. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Rosa. This was such a wonderful conversation.
So nice
I'm
to
so glad
chat.
we got to do this. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Make sure you guys go follow Two Raw Sisters, get the app. I'll make sure that's all linked for you guys below. Share with a friend who you think would enjoy, and class dismissed.
Thanks, Autumn.